Hi, and welcome back. In section one, we're going to provide an introduction to the SAFE framework. This will provide context for the role of PI planning in SAFE, and will introduce much of the terminology you're going to need as you build your knowledge of SAFE. Topics covered in section one. First, what is the purpose of SAFE and why might you need it? Then what are the business benefits of adopting SAFE? We'll then talk about the underlying values and principles from lean thinking and agile, which represent the foundation of SAFE. We'll then review the 7 core competencies that make up the framework and how they collectively position the framework as a solution for the broader challenge of business agility. We'll look at SAFE's model for the scale delivery organization, known as the Agile Release Train, or ART, which is designed to focus the organization on value creation. We'll also review SAFE's system of cadenced planning and delivery and the concept of PIs, or planning increments. And then finally, to summarize, we'll walk through a high-level view of end-to-end flow, showing how we go from enterprise strategy right through to delivery. Let's begin by placing SAFE in the historical context of the evolution of agile methods, and we'll look at some key milestones along the way. So back as far as 1970, the waterfall model was originally defined in a 1970 IEEE paper by Winston Royce of TRW, an aerospace company. So this was characterized by a linear sequential life cycle model with phase gates, basic underlying assumptions where all requirements were known up front and nothing will substantially change. And the software projects followed a linear sequence of requirements, followed by design, followed by coding, followed by testing, and so on. This resulted in some very high project failure rates, where projects were either delivered late, completely canceled, and when they were actually delivered, almost 2/3 of delivered requirements were either never used or rarely used. This data is available in the Standish survey and report that's published annually. Then in 1995, we have the first formulation of Scrum by Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, presented at a OOPSLA 95 conference. We should take note that the ideas presented in Scrum were adapted from a paper by two Japanese authors, Takeuchi and Nonaka. In 1996, we have the extreme programming movement beginnings of, with Kent Back leading the charge. This framework is designed around small teams, incremental and iterative development, inspect and adapt cycles, feedback loops, and the introduction of user stories, then referred to as story cards. In 2001, the Agile Manifesto was published, and then between then and the introduction of SAFE over the next sort of 10 years or so, we had various ad hoc approaches to scaling. In 2011, SAFE 1.0 was introduced, and this focused on essentially how to deliver systems with multiple teams in multi-sprint planning timeframes. In 2019, SAFE 5.0 made an appearance. The scope now encompasses business agility based around the 7 core competencies. And then in 2023, we have SAFE 6.0. So let's start by asking, what is SAFE and how does it support scale delivery? SAFE can be described as an organizational model plus a set of workflow patterns for scaling software delivery beyond single agile teams. The organizational model is based on having multiple delivery teams organized into agile release trains or ARTs. ARTs are aligned with business value streams, which is they simply support the workflow steps needed to provide a product or service to a customer. This delivery model uses cadence, both cadence and synchronization mechanisms for planning and delivery based on multi-sprint planning increments or PIs. SAFe has a strong emphasis on aligning strategy with execution. Much of this is covered in the portfolio management core competency, but we will touch on it again later in this section. And finally, let's not forget the importance of the underlying principles that support the framework. SAFe's principles are derived from well-established bodies of knowledge, including lean, agile, and systems thinking. At this stage, don't worry too much about terminology like value streams and agile release trains. We will be covering those in detail in the next couple of sections of the course. If you're interested in adopting SAFe, the question might arise, why choose SAFe over other available scaling frameworks? And some of the reasons for that might include, first of all, it's become the most widely adopted framework to the extent that it has become the de facto standard for scaling. Scaled Agile Inc. claims that SAFe has been adopted by more than 75% of the Fortune 500. The framework is designed to be highly flexible and adaptable, and the reason for that is because it is intended to be used as a framework, not a detailed prescription, and hence should be adapted to fit the specific needs of your situation. And finally, SAFe has comprehensive support available, including training, consulting, and coaching resources. So now let's briefly touch on what are the expected business benefits of adopting SAFe. So agility is a means to an end, and organizations pursue agile transformations to achieve important business benefits. At minimum, significant improvements in operational performance are expected. These include things like reduced delivery lead times, reductions in production defects, and improved reliability of delivered systems. Additional benefits include things like higher levels of employee engagement and retention, improved customer satisfaction, and ultimately improved overall business outcomes as measured by financial metrics. The data on the slide have been published by McKinsey and on the SAFe website, and these are representative of the kinds of benefits that one might realistically expect to achieve having adopted SAFe. Now, having outlined some of the key benefits in adopting SAFe, you should be aware that there are some criticisms, and specifically, first of all, that it is a very large framework and it comes with a steep, time-consuming, and expensive learning curve. And secondly, that all of the additional governance, including things like PI planning, has the net effect of adding overhead and additional processing steps, which can reduce agility. So it is important to understand that most organizations are only likely to need a fraction of the entire framework, and that it is essential to tailor the framework to fit the specific needs of your business and not to blindly adopt everything in a prescriptive or mechanical way. Thus, it is really critical to absorb the lean agile principles at the foundation of the framework and to use these as guidance. So before we go much further, let's take a look at the values and principles that form the foundation of SAFe. SAFe, like all other agile frameworks, has its roots in lean thinking. Lean emerged from Toyota as they worked to improve their process capabilities to eventually achieve dominance in automobile manufacturing. In a nutshell, Lean is a tool or a framework for creating value while eliminating waste, or if you will, a tool to guide the pursuit of creating maximum value at least cost. We refer here to the classic book on the subject, Lean Thinking, by James Womack and Daniel Jones. The principles summarized in the slide are from their work. So the 5 principles are: first, specify value from the perspective of the ultimate customer. Why do we need this specific feature? What's the value to the customer? Always be asking that. Then identify the value stream for your product or service. That is, what are the set of actions needed to create that value from the initial customer request through to delivery to the customer. Then making value flow is all about identifying sources of waste and delay in that value stream and taking action to remove them. Customer pull is about only creating things which have been demanded by an actual customer. Here we are looking to avoid accumulation of work in progress and wasting resources on making things for which there is no customer. And finally, the pursuit of perfection is about ensuring that continuous improvement is embedded in your process or processes and culture. Then moving on to the Agile Manifesto. So the values and principles underpinning Agile development are enshrined in the well-known Agile Manifesto with its 4 values and 12 principles, which emphasize things like working software, customer collaboration, and responding to change. Just a quick word on SAFe terminology here. In SAFe Business Agility, we find it useful to substitute the word solution for software in the manifesto to highlight that the framework can be applied much more broadly to a set of business challenges rather than just software development or IT. In addition to the Lean Agile principles, SAFe introduces a set of values and principles of its own. SAFe has 4 core values: alignment, transparency, respect for people, and relentless improvement. There is, of course, some overlap between these and the Lean Agile principles, but some stand out as unique in their own right. For example, decision making based on economics and the application of cadence and synchronization as a way to create predictability and enhance organizational agility. Much of this is derived from Don Reinertson's work, Principles of Product Development Flow. There's a reference on the slide. We won't go through these all individually here, but we'll refer you to the SAFe literature and Reinertson's book for further details. It is important to get a firm grasp on these values and principles and learn how to apply them in your own situation. It is especially important for an organization's leadership to embrace these principles and use them to lead the organization. So then at this point, one might be wondering, why do we need all these principles? A good answer comes from Deming, who was an American management consultant who played an influential role in the Japanese post-World War II construction, where much of his teaching was adopted. So the lesson here is that yes, every organization will have its own unique situation and challenges, and no single framework can supply a tailor-made solution. Therefore, it is important to leverage some basic principles that are universal in nature and learn how to apply these. So now let's look at the set of 7 core competencies that make up the SAFe framework. Since the release of SAFe 5.0, The framework has been restructured around 7 core competencies. These core competencies collectively constitute a framework for achieving the broader goal of business agility and not just for scaling software development. They provide the necessary knowledge, practices, principles, and mindset needed for the adoption of SAFe. Each core competency has 3 dimensions: key practices needed to support the competency, roles and responsibilities within that competency, and related values and principles. Here's a quick summary of each competency. Lean Agile Leadership core competency is the foundation of the entire framework. This competency area comprises the Lean Agile principles and SAFe principles and talks about the necessity for an organization's leadership to exemplify these principles in their leadership behaviors. Team and technical agility is about having small cross-functional teams with the ability to deliver working increments of a product or a solution to a definition of done as the output of every iteration, using the important principle of building quality in. Agile product delivery is where PI planning fits and defines a delivery model using teams of teams known as ARTs or Agile release trains to plan and deliver solutions within time-box planning increments or PIs. PIs and all of their supporting events run on cadence. Enterprise solution delivery is for those companies that build very large solutions requiring the capacity of multiple Agile release trains per solution. Agile release train is typically 10 to 12 teams. If you need capacity much beyond that, we're going to need multiple Agile release trains to support the overall solution. Then we have lean portfolio management. This is where we connect strategy to execution and how ART backlogs represent the work needed to realize strategy. It also covers topics like lean budgeting. Lean budgeting is an adaptive approach for investment funding among multiple value streams within a single portfolio. Organizational agility is the ability of an organization to sense and quickly respond to threats and opportunities in the fast changing business environments of today. And finally, continuous learning culture is about how organizations must embrace continuous improvement as a way of life, and where everyone in the organization must be involved and contributing to change and continuous improvement. Okay, now let's look more specifically at the Agile Product Delivery core competency. Agile Product Delivery is based on teams of teams known as Agile Release Trains or ARTs, planning and delivering using cadence and synchronization in order to continuously create releasable value throughout a planning increment. PI planning fits within this core competency. The primary input to PI planning is the ART backlog. ART backlogs comprise customer product features plus technology enabler items that may be needed to support those features. ART backlogs are the primary source of work for Agile release trains. ARTs comprise up to 12 teams. That is a maximum of around 150 people, which is the so-called Dunbar limit, and exists to support a business value stream. We'll be covering that topic in detail in the next section. ARTs plan and deliver using a cadence-based planning and delivery model based on the concept of PIs or planning increments. One PI is 4 to 6 iterations, that is between 8 and 12 weeks. Many organizations plan in quarterly increments, which is around 6 sprints. Within a PI, the role of the ART is to create releasable product increments with every iteration. Actual release actions are customer dependent and business driven, and in SAFe are decoupled from the development cadence so as not to interrupt the flow of development. There are a set of governance or orchestration mechanisms to support the operation of PIs, specifically PI planning, art syncs, and system demos. And we also have a set of roles associated with art governance, for example, the product manager and release train engineer roles. Finally, agile product delivery is built on a foundation of two other core competencies, namely team and technical agility and lean agile mindset and principles. Next, we want to go over again the key elements of agile product delivery and talk about how the process flows from end to end, and at the same time add a little bit more detail beyond what we've discussed already. So SAFe product delivery has three interdependent elements. All parts must be in place to implement the SAFe delivery model. The first part is the art backlog. This is the primary input into PI planning and primary source of work for delivery teams on an art. The art backlog comprises two sets of items, user features plus potentially some enabling technology items. The art backlog is customer facing, that is, backlog items should be demonstrable and amenable to stakeholder feedback, while at the same time aligned with business strategy and product vision. We will be looking at the details of how to construct an art backlog in section 3. Next, we have the Agile Release Train, or ART. This is the organizational model for product delivery and comprises multiple teams up to a maximum of around 12 who plan and execute together. Each team within an art should be capable of independently creating features from the art backlog. And if that is not the case, the organization should be working continuously to remove or minimize dependencies between teams. The ability to create art backlogs and art design are both critical prerequisites for agile delivery at scale using SAFe. Finally, planning and delivery operates on a cadence based on planning increments, or PIs. A PI is a 5 to 6 iteration time box within which planning and delivery occur. The PI can be considered a container for everything needed to plan and create product increments. It's worth emphasizing that in SAFe, the creation of product increments is decoupled from release activities. Release is performed based on customer and business demand. This makes it possible for the development organization to continue to develop on cadence without interruption. The SAFe mantra goes, develop on cadence, release on demand. So let's now try and pull all of this together in a summary. So SAFe product delivery has three interdependent elements. First is the art backlog, customer facing, aligns with strategy, features in the backlog fit within a single PI time box, and those features must be ready for PI planning that is sufficiently refined and be stack ranked using some mechanism like cost of delay or weighted shortest job first. We'll get to that in a subsequent section. The second thing is we need to design an organizational model that can effectively take the art backlog and translate that into working tested product increments. Here we have the art or agile release train. So we have a maximum of 12 teams per art, which is around 150 people. Value stream aligned. Teams can independently create value. Minimal dependencies between teams, ideally. And teams operate with high autonomy, which enables them to make fast decision making. Once that is all done, the teams should now be in a position to create working tested product increments. What does that mean? Product increments meet a definition of done. No defects. This goes with the principle of building quality in. Increments must be demonstrable to stakeholders and amenable to feedback. So this concludes section 1 of the course. In this section we gave an overview of SAFe, including a history of SAFe. We talked about some of the business benefits of adopting SAFe. We discussed the 7 core competencies that make up the SAFe Business Agility Framework. Then we talked about values, principles, and the lean agile mindset. And finally, we talked about the core elements of the SAFe delivery model. Coming up next in section 2, we're going to be looking at the organizational model for scale delivery. We've touched on it already to a certain extent in the current lesson. This is about the design of agile release trains, or ARTs, which is again one of our fundamental prerequisite steps for PI planning. We'll see you in the next section.